Come on! It's been a long day! This is part of the talk! That honestly was part of the talk, not just for my ego, but it helped. The reason I wanted to create that atmosphere is because something magical happens when people gather together. When we all come together in groups and share an emotional experience, it can be transformative. And that's what I've spent much of my career doing in big ways and smalls. I'm obsessed with connecting with people and helping people connect to each other. There's been various different projects which have done that. For instance, I am twice the world record holder for the world's longest hug. I have also once played the Sydney Opera House when I was a comedian, and I sold every single ticket to it in person. And I now am the CEO and co-founder of Sunday Assembly. It is a worldwide network of secular congregations that celebrate life. But what I'm here to talk... By the way, is there anyone here who has gone to Sunday Assembly Brighton? Love you guys, you're the best. Also, you other guys are good too. But I want to tell you about my next idea, and this one is even bigger. The next idea is called Lifefulness. And by the end of this 15 minutes, you will understand this sentence. Lifefulness is to congregation as mindfulness is to meditation. Well, before we get into that, I'm going to tell you a bit more about myself. And I'm going to start in this church. This is the church that I was christened in. It's called Bowden Kirk in Scotland. It's near where my grandparents used to live, and I was dragged there very reluctantly throughout my childhood. It's also the church where my mother was buried. She died just one day after my 10th birthday. She was an amazing woman, a barrister, mother of 5 by the age of 42. She was my mum. During my teenage years, it meant that I had to sort of grow up, and I didn't believe in God. I had to grow up dealing with all these big questions about life and death and love and grief. And somehow in the process, it wasn't merely sad, but oh my gosh, it was sad. All those feelings transformed into something else. They transformed into a transcendental love, appreciation, and gratitude for life. To be an alive human, and don't worry, it won't last long, is to win every lottery in the world every day of your life. I find that the easiest way to go and connect to the wonder of being alive is to actually think about your own impending death. I've even got my own perfect death that I like to think about. I dream of dying peacefully in my sleep, but next to someone I dislike, who hates surprises. About 10 years ago, I was in Bowden Kirk again. It was Christmas. And I found myself with a very changed relation to it. I was there and I found myself loving it. I loved the singing. I loved that community spirit. I loved being with my loved ones, thinking about improving my own life and trying to help other people. And I thought, maybe there's a way of doing this around something that everyone can celebrate, that everyone's got in common. Maybe we could do this around celebrating life. And on that cliffhanger question, we're going to jump into someone else's life. This guy here is called John Kabat-Zinn. John Kabat-Zinn is the founder of modern medical mindfulness. Give me a cheer if you've ever done a headspace. It's because of this guy. In 1979, he was on a Buddhist retreat, and whilst he was doing it, he had this idea. He thought, this is so good. Imagine if there was a way of doing it that everyone could join in. And so he created this thing called the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Course. And that spread all over the world. There's now so many different books on it. If you go and look online, you can get mindfulness for CEOs, students, mums, dads, and dummies. But enough about him. Let's get back onto me. Actually, let's talk about Pippa. Pippa is a wonderful comedian, and I met her in 2011, and we were going to a gig in Bath, and it turned out that she'd had the same idea that I had. Pippa had been an avid churchgoer, but when she stopped believing in the God bit, she found she really missed the community, the fellowship, and the purpose. Someone's got a call. And the community, the fellowship, and the purpose. And so we decided that we'd collaborate together. In 2013, we had the first ever Sunday assembly. It was in this place here in North London, and we thought no one was going to turn up. About 200 people did. Then people wrote to us from all over the world saying, please could we have one too? And we slightly recklessly said, sure, we'll help you do that, even though we didn't know what we were doing. And now there are almost 65 communities across the world in 6 different countries with thousands of people participating every month. If you haven't been to Sunday Assembly Brighton, then you might be thinking, what happens when you go along? And, well, people sing songs, they go and hear TED-style talks, then what happens is there's a moment of reflection, and people connect. And that connection leads to all manner of community activities afterwards. There's volunteering, there's peer-to-peer support, there's social activities. It is a whole community. And it was after a few years of doing this that I thought, actually, there's a bigger idea than just Sunday Assembly. And that is the idea of lifefulness. It is the idea of taking secular congregations and secularizing them so that everyone can take part. And I think I should quickly define sort of some of the characteristics of a congregational community. Typically, there's a community. There's a big clue in the name. Then there's normally a celebratory gathering regularly. There's a sort of pathway of personal growth. There's an emphasis on doing good works and a commitment to sharing your values with the world. But if you want it in a sentence, then I would say lifefulness is a way of sharing life together in community. So, that's some of the pre-chat there. I am now going to share with you the 4 guiding principles of lifefulness. Yes, and I'm excited, but could be maybe a bit more excited. And the first one is that lifefulness is a community-building methodology. I have to make this really clear. We are not starting a new religion, even though I do have the haircut for it. Mindfulness does not equal religion in the same way that lifefulness does not equal religion. And I'm going to make that even clearer. So what happened is that John Kabat-Zinn, he went and took Buddhist meditation, he then removed the metaphysical aspects, he then measured it with science to make it evidence-based, and he created mindfulness. What we're doing is we're looking at congregations, removing the metaphysical aspects to make it inclusive, measuring it with science to make it evidence-based, and ta-da, lifefulness. And you might be thinking, why on earth would you choose the word lifefulness? Well, TTYT, tell you the truth. It's partly because it sounds quite a lot like mindfulness. And whilst that sounds silly, I just want to make the connection totally clear. We're doing the same process, but also because living in a congregational community, a lifefulness community, is about living life as fully as possible, about celebrating life and being with people over the course of their life, the fullness of their life, both the wonder and the messiness. And I think we are in dire need of more connection in the world today. I'm sure everyone here has noticed the seeming chaos is on the rise, the polarization and the fragmentation which has happened in a dislocated society. You know, there's so many of the normal systems of community and social support have gone away. There doesn't seem to be a positive narrative about the future, unless it's, you know, those sort of weird tech utopias you read about where everyone's going to be uploaded into the cloud, or else we're all going to have virtual reality strapped onto us and then be looked after by sex robots. Might have been a dream. There seems to be so much talk about the budget deficit nowadays, but not about the deficit we have of hope, of belonging, and meaning. there used to be one type of social structure which spoke to all three of those needs, and that was the congregational community. There's something about it which really resonates with people. I know that it resonated with me. I remember on the first day that we did Sunday Assembly, I was getting on my bike, going back up a hill, and I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I put my comedy career to the side, and then I went out and I met all these people who got in touch online. There were people in the UK. I went to go meet people in the US. When I was in the US, I even met our first protester. He clearly hadn't done enough research. I was standing next to him and he said, "Are you part of this?" I was like, "No." Kinda. And I think that the congregational community has resonated with people over the years in all manner of different countries and cities and places and times because it is naturally evolved around the human condition. I think it's quite useful to think about hats when thinking about this. Hats are much the same shape the world over because they fit human heads. Congregational communities are much the same shape the world over because they fit human lives. But I think the problem that we're experiencing at the moment is that the congregation doesn't fit us anymore. In Britain, the latest survey which came out said 53% of people no longer believe in religion, and that goes way up to 75% in the 18 to 25-year-olds. And whilst the decline of community life is not the only reason for the dislocation we're experiencing, there's the rise of technology, longer working hours. This connective tissue in Britain has disappeared. And it's also got profound impacts in sort of health and mental health. Did you know that the thing which reduces your life expectancy the most isn't smoking more than 15 cigarettes a day, isn't heavy drinking or not exercise? It is more dangerous for your mortality if you've got weak relationships and low social integration. I spoke to some scientists, though, and they said that if you've got lots of mates, it doesn't mean you can smoke lots of fags. Just to clarify that. Luckily, I think Lifefulness answers many of these things because Lifefulness is inclusive and it is evidence-based. It is all about bringing people together from different backgrounds, having places where people who might have voted Brexit and the Remainers can come together and not talk about the politics which divide them, but instead the hundreds of thousands of things that unite them. And at Sunday Assembly, we've got an expression, well, we say that we're radically inclusive, but we find it's often best expressed as, we welcome all who welcome all. And that's where the lesson of mindfulness really comes in. Mindfulness was able to bring people together by having a shared language, which means Christians and Muslims and atheists and agnostics could all be in the room together at the same time. Imagine if we could do the same thing for congregational communities. Imagine if there was a way of organizing people so that we could all be in the room at the same time. We're on number 2 of 4 points. I've got 1 minute left. I don't even have a book to sell you, so I can say, read the book. Rats, but we're going to keep on going. At Sunday Assembly, if we want to go and have that impact, if we want to go and make a new social software which can connect people across the planet, then I think we're going to have evidence for it. And we've started doing studies of what happens if people attend Sunday Assembly, and you're going to have to learn about them afterwards. Oh, that's a great story. You're not getting it? Oh, it's really touching. It moves me. Point number 3 is that Lifefulness is ethical and organized and maybe spiritual. And I say this in sort of comparison to mindfulness. And by the way, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying it's unethical, disorganized, and not spiritual. I'm just saying that when John Kabat-Zinn made the decision to go and adapt it, he only adapted one part of the Buddhist tradition, and he left out the ethics and the organization and also the spiritual aspect. It's led to some people to describe it as the commodification of mindfulness. Lloyd Purser said that even a person committing a premeditated, heinous crime can be exercising mindfulness, albeit wrong mindfulness. So we need to make sure that these communities are all about people leading their best lives, not just for them, not just as individuals, but for their communities and the world. And I'm sure there's some people here who might have heard that word organized and it didn't chime with them, thinking, I like religion, but not organized religion. Well, since starting Sunday Assembly, I've started to think that the organization is one of the best parts of religion. Fuzzy feelings on their own don't start food banks. Fuzzy feelings on their own don't look after the elderly, visit the sick, or make food parcels. Institutions allow positive vibes to roll up their sleeves, and organizations allow philosophies to get their hands dirty. That there is a picture of the Salvation Army. They're giving out tea and bacon butties to the firefighters underneath the Grenfell Tower. You only do that if you're able to get organized. I also have some very interesting opinions on secular spirituality. Point number 4, there are in fact more guiding principles, but let's not put them all down here because this is a TED Talk and not a big list. You've already seen these. There we go. That's Lifefulness, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't quite finished, though. I just want you guys all to let me know that now you understand that Lifefulness is to, as mindfulness is to, and I hope that some of you here might have heard something in this and decided to get involved in your community. So you might want to join some people who are already doing something. You might want to start something yourself. I'm hoping that you've heard something, not just from me, but across this whole day, which will make you committed to building the world as it should be. A world, and this is on the subject of utopias, and this is my utopia that I want to see happen on this earth. A world where everyone is able to live life as fully as possible. Thank you very much.